And who you are?
My name is Patrick, and I'm applying for a variance.
Oh, very good. Okay. We'll be having words with you.
What's that?
We'll be having words with you.
Uh,
We will do that.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. We will do that. Okay. Okay, folks. This is another edition of Fright Night. Just kidding. Okay, let's get this meeting started, please. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Any announcements? Not hearing any. John, who's with us electronically?
President, nobody is.
What? Okay. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Move the approval? I'll second.
take it.
So moved and seconded. Sir, yes, go ahead.
Mr. President, I'd like to remove item
E from the
E
consent
from the
calendar.
consent calendar.
Very good. So, we can go ahead and do that now. That is not going to be when we go to our vote for the consent calendar. Item E will not be included for anybody who's unaware of that. Okay. So any other item? Okay, thank you, sir. This, yes, go ahead.
Did the board already move to approve the agenda and second it or not? Since I-
No, we're gonna do that.
But we
again.
didn't.
After
We haven't voted, so.
Shall we?
Will,
Do I have a motion?
We need to amend it, yeah.
Okay. So we'll amend the agenda. Go ahead, sir.
It was kind of a tie between Rick and I who made the motion.
Rock, paper,
I'll make the motion, to approve the agenda minus item E in the consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 Okay, very good. The agenda is approved. Public forum. Anybody wishing to speak? Now's your chance. We do have some folks here. Ms. Thompson, Mrs. Thompson, forgive me. And gentlemen, Mr.
Patrick.
Okay, we will be speaking to you shortly when we get to your particular item. Okay, so do the managers have anything that they'd like to remove for discussion or other from the consent calendar?
I have a question on D.
Okay, so would you like to remove D from the consent calendar?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So I'd like to make a motion, not hearing anything else, that we approve of items A, B, C, F, and G. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 Okay, the consent calendar is approved. And now we're going to move to item D, the surety reduction for permit 2014-28. Go ahead, sir.
I noticed in the report that, proof, submitted for required minimum floor elevations were not completed yet. And, I'm wondering, what the situation is there, whether that's something that we ought to be holding this up for. Whether that's covered in the recommended $10,000 set aside yet in the surety.
Mr. President, Manager Bellman. Typically, the city of Lake Elmo would be responsible for making sure that the homes that are constructed are no lower than what's shown on the plan sheet. They review when each home is being constructed. I have not confirmed with them that that's been done in the subdivision, so that would.
Thank you. Then I would move let's see, that the surety amount be reduced to $10,000 for permit number 2014-28.
We'll second that motion. It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 Right, that is approved. So D, we're all squared right there. Let's move on to update the request from partners, volunteer citizens advisory committee. Mrs. Thompson, you are up. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
let's see how we get into this one. Well, the reason I like to have a little fun in these meetings, so don't take it the wrong way, but we have some questions of you as you have some questions of us of what you'd like to do. So, Mr. Engineer, lead us in this discussion.
Mr. President, managers, I included a memo in the packet that summarizes 5 items that Ms. Thompson would like to discuss with the board tonight. First being partial payment policy. You might recall a couple of meetings ago where there was a request for a partial payment of $150 over a $2,500 grant, and the managers denied that request just because it was such a small amount for a large grant and the processing costs associated with that, and also that there'd be no guarantee that the applicant would continue to do that project. So Alyssa would like to hear more about the managers of when a partial payment might be acceptable to the managers and when it isn't, so that she can communicate with the grant recipients that information. Second item is talking about the grant for the Afton Levy project. The managers denied that request a few meetings ago because the managers wanted more information on that. And Alyssa can provide that information tonight. Third is reviewing a sign that Washington Conservation District has prepared, a draft sign for rain gardens at Washington County. And if you recall, when the managers approved that grant, the managers asked that the signage prominently note Valley Branch Watershed District's financial contribution to the project. And then the last 2 items are talking about the 2025 budget. Managers just approved an agreement with Washington Conservation District to implement the district's cost share program. Alyssa would like to talk a little bit about that, as well as the cost share program itself and reimbursement policy. Currently, it's for the stewardship grant, it funds $5,000 per pound of phosphorus removal, or $2,500 per pound of phosphorus removal, and she'd like to discuss possibly raising that to $5,000 per pound of phosphorus. A long time ago, it used to be $5,000 per pound of phosphorus. Maybe the last 6 years or so, it was changed back down to 2,500, and so she'd like to talk about possibly raising it back up.
Okay, so the way I'd like to approach this, if it's all right with you, is to go over these one at a time. We might have some simple answers, or we can have, as you would like, a nice discussion about that. So number one, the partial payment policy. That's real simple, to me, 149 seems like $3.77, but you understand why we do this, is that correct?
yes, yep,
Okay.
I do. Like in the case of Jamie Munson, it's a little bit of a barrier for her finishing her project. So just wondering if there's a little bit of room there. Like she has seeded the whole project, but now she wants to add plugs to the project. So she, in addition to the extension, requested a partial payment so that she could finish the project. But the area is completed, seeded. It'll be a native planting regardless, but she'd like to enhance it with the plugs, but it's a little bit of a barrier. So I'm just wondering if there are instances where we can maybe navigate that so people can finish or complete their projects the way they want to.
Okay, so I'll approach this very quickly. John, please explain policy very quickly, how we typically handle this. And then we'll go on about anything we can do or not do. What do we typically do?
As President managers, there isn't a typically it's no partial payment. You stay at the end of the project. There probably have been some occasions where there's been partial payments, but Alyssa probably knows them better than I do, but
Sure.
I think it's been very few.
Okay, Mr. Brock.
Just looking at what we approved tonight, we did approve that partial payment that was in the consent calendar. because it sounded like it was a problem for the homeowner. So we did that one, and I'll mess up. I was the one that brought up the issue on the last one, the small amount. It just struck me as, and before I was on the board, I went through a $500 grant process. You know, I carried all those costs till the very end. It wasn't a big deal, and just seemed to me for 100, you know, unless there was some crazy reason why we should make that payment, it just didn't, and I didn't see anything there. So I was one who brought that up.
That landowner requested it. I pushed back on him a little bit and he said he'd like to do it anyway for his own tracking purposes. And I told him I would see what would happen. And then I did tell him it wasn't approved and he said that's okay.
Okay.
I think in some neighborhoods and areas that we're trying to target, they don't always have the $500 up front to do the project. So I do see it as a barrier for some places that we're trying to get into and get more work done.
I would hope that if you encounter that situation where it's a low income person and it is a problem for them and it's a partial, I would hope that some way you could word that to give us that, maybe without divulging private information, you could give us a hint that it's an impediment for them, like you did on this one. I think things we would probably look at maybe a little differently.
Without a doubt, that's probably one of the concerns. In case you don't know, there are always risks involved, and our situation is delicate as far as enforcement, and we're not here to be bad guys or say, no, soup for you. You get my point. But we want to be sure about what we're doing, and what Mr. Brock pointed out, as he brought up last time, one of the things, and we discussed this with our engineer to convey that to you and your folks, that the more information you give us, the more understanding we have of what we're doing, the more informed we are, and the more, or shall I say, the easier it is to provide you, and I don't want to use that word, constituents, our homeowners, our people in our watershed district with funds for better understanding what we want and what they want, and everything stays above the law. So that's how I think. And so when the managers bring up things like this, we're concerned, and we're always going to do that. But if you rattle off 50 different Latin names for plants and you do all this, we go, oh wow, they're all over this one, and that gets me all excited. You know, I just think like that. But it means that you're providing us with added details that are necessary, in my opinion, to make this better for us. Good. Do the managers have any other comment on this particular number?
One of the things that struck me when we were talking about it at the last meeting is, you know, like $150 out of the $2,500 amount. You know, we could get nickel and dimed on that one and not see an end to the project. And you know, what would that represent? About 15 or 16 payments of $150. And you know, we're a fairly small organization, and to have to mess with that type of situation is not something we really want to. We want to balance that. And yet at the same time, as you were describing, you know, we do want to be, you know, concerned about individuals if they're in a tight situation, and you know, and they're doing their best to, you know, to help improve our environment. You know, that's what this is about.
Thank you, sir. So again, communication, and by the way, we're glad to have you on board. And so nothing personal here. We just want to be more effective, more efficient, if that's possible. All right. Yes, sir.
And I wasn't actually at the last meeting, but this was denied last meeting. And is she considering reapplying for it if we change our mind to get the 150?
That landowner is still moving forward with their project.
Okay.
I think for him, it was more of like an internal tracking thing, not necessarily a barrier to getting the project done.
I see.
Okay, so that's it. Let's move on to item 2 quickly. The grant for Afton levy. Okay. What did we do again? We tabled the community grant request.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
Speak to this if you'd like.
Please.
What I recall from the last meeting on that was it was kind of a lack of detail. It was basically like funding to seed the levee and,
Yeah.
you know, with native grasses and with. Maybe there was more to it than that, but that's about what I recall. It wasn't much more than that. And so that we thought it'd be nice to have a little more detail on that, which is in tonight's package, quite a bit for detail. So I'll just back to you, Ed, that was what I take on it.
So again, the recurring theme, we need information, and that's essentially why we did what we did. And so my understanding is now, without knowing everything here, that this is going to, this is back on track, and we're going to move forward with this one way or another. It's on the list.
President
Yeah.
Andrews, if you'd like to approve funding, you need to do that in a motion tonight.
Understood, but is that an item that it'll sit before us, or?
It is not an agenda, so you need to do that tonight or can add it to the next meeting's agenda.
Okay, so I'll ask you, for expediency's sake,
Mhm.
is this something that we can not bring up until the next meeting, or?
Yep, that's fine. This is a multi-year project. It just started this year with the CPL grant, and these funds would be used for planting in the spring.
Okay, so we can bring that up on our agenda next month and follow through with that. Bill, do you have anything? Mr. Inspector?
President Marchand, I just wanted to make a comment. I was happy to see that the Army Corps added a letter of support. There was a conflict when the levee was first done in the downtown project years ago. They were going to seed everything in native, and the Army Corps rule said that they couldn't, that they had to keep it, mowed, vegetated but mowed. So I was happy to see that they've changed their direction on that, and they're supporting projects like this, which is good to see. So I know that was a conflict before, and so I was wondering how that was going to get resolved. So that's great to see that.
He's happy, we're happy.
Okay, good.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Okay, item 3, rain garden sign in Washington County Fairgrounds. Let's see. For the new signage, we certainly, is this the sign that's going up? Okay. I don't know how the managers feel about this, what they think is appropriate. I like seeing, and again, I don't know if this is what we do or what we can ask for, but the local or common names, as well as the Latin names on every single plant, not, you know what I mean? If you've got, this is buckthorn and you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think that goes a long way to educating the public. It's a very helpful thing. And it gives us substance, so to speak, to what we're doing, because in the past, and I'm gonna be honest, people can crucify me if they want, but with the rain gardens, I don't want that to be wasteful. And in my opinion, or I have evidence to comment about that people, they're enthusiastic about it the first 1 or 2 years, then all of a sudden, what happened, And we don't want it to turn, as some people claim, a mosquito nursery or something else, and typically water's supposed to leave within 48 hours, but it slows it down. And so what do we do? What sort of vegetation is optimal? I know we know all this, but what's going to be there in the long run that is going to benefit everybody so that we can justify these costs.
Mhm.
Because that's important, in my opinion. Okay, so,
Well, I see the sign at the fairgrounds as being really educational tool.
Okay.
This seems to be an appropriate tool, you know, people that don't know about rain gardens have a chance to, you know, get some basic information about them. And is useful in that way.
and we're also represented, so we like
Yeah.
that too. Yes, sir.
So, Melissa, have you considered maybe a QR code that people could go to a website and find out more information?
Oh, that's a great idea. Okay.
Would you want it to go to, a Valley Branch page, Valley Branch Watershed District page?
What the question, well, who's gonna give the advice on rain gardens? I was thinking Washington
Yeah, give you a little
Conservation
more.
District.
Or direct.
Sir, did you have anything? Okay, so that's essentially our feedback. Are we all satisfied on item 3? Unless anybody has anything else? Okay. Number 4, the 2025 agreement with the Washington Conservation District, the technical services, 45,000. And is that an additional $55,000 budget? I believe that's what it is for what we spend annually or what they have for their budget.
Mr. President, managers, it's $45,000 for Washington Conservation District to administer and provide technical assistance for the program. The program itself, the reimbursement to individuals for native plantings or stewardship grants, that's a $55,000.
Okay, and not to put anybody on the spot, this isn't what it is. If anybody knows by chance how much we have spent, the 45,000 is something that we have to pay up front, correct? No,
Time and expenses.
time and expenses, okay. And the 55,000?
55,000
Right there, yeah.
It's included in your packet.
I
How
need
much
a-
has been spent this year?
This has been really good, having that fast.
You need a magnifying glass.
Yeah, that's-
I can make it 11 by 17.
Bigger font, what is that, like a 3 or something? Okay. Okay, so yeah, I saw this. And look how close we are. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question if I may. What would you like? What do you want?
As far as funding.
Yes, ma'am.
Um,
And why?
I would like to increase it by $10,000 to 55,000 to help support the program and keep increasing the amount of projects and support we can provide to landowners.
Okay, so again, just generally speaking, question. How does this happen? Are you approached or do you folks essentially solicit certain things? You go, hey, this looks good, let's check this out, or how does that work, or a combination thereof, or?
It's a combination of
Okay.
both. And our education department will send out our post for different areas and specific geographic locations to contact us for certain projects. We'll also send postcards to certain neighborhoods to let them know about different funding streams. And a lot of people just reached out to us through word of mouth. So it's a
They
combination.
do. Word of mouth, that's good.
Yeah.
You have anything, sir?
Oh, if we're kind of time and material and we're bumping up to the limit and it's been a successful program. There's, that's a good thing. There's more demand for the assistance than what we currently have in our budget.
So my take on this is, I don't know if this requires a motion to provide WCD with that extra funding. But I certainly would like, either the managers talk about it or that we receive, possible technical feedback on your end. And also from our engineer to help make a determination to see if, I don't want to just say, you're on, you know, we can, I suppose. But I want to research just a little bit. And that might benefit all of us. Not suggesting any short-sightedness on our part, but we want to make sure that this is critical and this is important, and we're coming into the end of the season. So, you know, we could look at what we have and then again determine if we need to make that addition. You know, allocate funds to you folks, and as opposed to what we've been putting in other areas. How did the managers feel about that? Have any comments?
Do you see 2024 as being kind of a typical year? Historically, what have you guys, how just gone out every year?
So I've been at the Conservation District for 2 years. I have been told prior to that, we didn't come anywhere near spending the budget. And then we did spend all of it in 2024. I think it was like at the end of the year, we ran out or we were a couple $100 short. And this year we're almost out and we're tapping into other funding sources to help support the program.
Well, that's good to know. All right, so,
Yes, so is your request then to increase the 2024 budget to that, or is this looking forward to 2025?
Looking forward to 2025.
Okay.
so we can certainly buys us a little time and we can have that discussion. But it does sound reasonable at this point. That's something that we should do. And we have been talking about these issues, education and implementing this stuff. But we also want to make sure that we're not short-sighted. I guess the easiest word for me to use, because it's the season, the upland aspect of what we are stewards for, and always make sure that there is that water component, you know, which is our primary realm. Okay, so we okay with that, everybody? Number 5, cost share reimbursement. Okay, this one's kind of interesting. You know, there's a lot of stuff I don't know, and I'm certainly going to ask anybody to pipe up if they like about this particular issue, but 2,500 to 5,000. I realize, you know, we want to control phosphorus any which way we can. The question is there an argument that you might have that would benefit us and benefit all of us?
Yeah. So I also work in South Washington Watershed District a lot, and their program is $5,000 per pound of phosphorus. And I do think it would lead to more of the water quality projects being done rather than just the native plant grants. And the contractor costs have gone up significantly in the last few years. So it really inhibits people that can't take on the projects themselves from covering the expenses of doing the project.
Yes, sir. For John, you said we used to have $5,000. The recollection of why we shipped it down 2,500 and.
Mr. President, Major Armstrong, I don't remember for sure. I think President Lucas at the time felt that maybe there wasn't really a hindrance in reducing it, that the real benefit of the program is the educational component of Washington Conservation District, meeting with members of Valley Branch Watershed District and talking about the benefits of rain gardens, the benefits of lakeshore restoration, benefits of native plants. So I think she thought that maybe reducing it would not reduce the number of grants, might actually increase the number of grants, number of projects that they can. She was also wanting larger projects. She voiced many times at meetings where she was discouraged by funding rain gardens that would only remove like a tenth of a pound of phosphorus or what have you. So her goal really with the program was to try to get larger projects that would have a larger.
One aspect of your request, that is the increased cost of it. Tremendous now. Yeah. Can't get a triple cheese for what you could in the past, right? So I think what we would like to do, or certainly pose this to the managers, certainly not make a final decision here, but to have this discussion with our engineering department and also our inspector. Give us some input on this so that we can help make that decision, but we understand. Do you gentlemen have anything? Okay, so I don't know how we handle this. We can add this to an agenda item. Know we're going into winter here, and so how much is this going to affect us now? You know, is this something that we can consider in 2025 and begin to budget and make that change? And when we do that, of course, we'll have the item is on our agenda, so we can make more informed decisions. But at this point, again, I agree with the cost, but everything else, we want to weigh our options if we can.
Yep, I didn't anticipate any program changes to go in effect.
Okay. All right, very good.
President Marchand?
Yes, sir.
Just a question. So if we were to increase that and implement that, would that come out of this 55,000 or, yeah? So our budget is the same, it's just the makeup of the projects might change. So, okay.
Bigger chunks.
And the
Yes,
maximum amount of phosphorus that we would remove with that, it would be cut in half. So it would be 10 pounds of phosphorus.
Yeah.
Rather than 20.
If we did,
But we're not
if we were
bumping
doing the
to
same,
that upper
Yeah.
level anyway.
if we were doing the same project.
Yeah.
right. So that's something we want to. Okay. Yes,
So you say in your note that, that you believe that if we bump it up, we should get large projects. So you talked to stakeholders that said that 2,500 just isn't enough for them, and
Yeah, so with our prairie conversions, converting turf to prairie, it takes about 3 acres to reduce 1 pound of phosphorus on the landscape. But to convert those 3 acres to prairie, it costs $15,000 to $20,000.
yeah.
And sometimes we have supplemental grants that we can give to people as well, like through the conservation district, but not always.
All right,
Do
so.
you,
Yeah,
do
yeah,
you
go ahead.
happen to know, from your experiences at a larger scale, what is the goal, say for, the Upper St. Croix, in terms of how much phosphorus to remove? So we can get some kind of notion of, what it is that we're, what percentage we're representing here, how it fits into the overall.
Yep, that's a great question. And I just went to a presentation on this and I'm forgetting the numbers.
Well, if you could
Yeah.
get them to us, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, great idea. And then, we have the discussion with our engineer, get more information, and this will become an agenda item. Like said before, that informed decision and blah, blah, blah. Okay, is there anything else on this, or, does this conclude our discussion with Mrs. Thompson? John? I think that's it. Okay. Fruitful? Good?
Yep, fruitful.
Yeah, good answers. Did we come up with something? we want to work with everybody, you know, sometimes it's intense, sometimes it seems like rubber stamping, but this is the input we like, and I'm sure the rest of the matters appreciate you attending and discussing this with us. It's very important.
Thank you for listening.
Right on. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Alyssa.
Have a great evening.
All right, you too. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too.
All right, that's squared away. Let's move on to business and reports. Administrator engineer. The Goddard School Woodbury Foundation. In this one, please.
President managers, including your packets of current review memo for this project. This is located in the Black Diamond area of Woodbury, next to the Southern Search Parkway, south of 94. This was, concept for this was originally included with the larger development. And this project does conform with assumptions made with that larger development. There's a note in the comment section of the component summary where we were needing to coordinate with the city of Woodbury because there's a little bit difference in how they were reviewing it compared to Valley Branch. Basically, there's a zoning issue where they can have certain amount of service. So the city of Woodbury is not allowing as much impervious surface as what had been assumed. So that's been addressed, and we recommend that managers approve the condition with those adjusted. Approve the permit with the suggested conditions.
So we're up the hill a little bit. Water comes down. Do any of the managers have any questions? Or anything they want to bring up about this? And Rick, you do have the surety on this.
Yes.
Seems simple to me. Everybody's okay with this one.
I'll make a motion to approve permit 2024-38.
I will second that motion. It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 Hi.
It is approved. Thank you, gentlemen. Organized. Okay. Variance request, Lake Shore remodel. 2024-39. Is this Mr. Patrick Hermans?
That's me, sir.
Okay, thank you. You're building a wall, correct?
Correct. More specifically, replacing the vast majority of this.
Okay. Any further details you'd like to add? We check this out.
The details, I think that are important, are this permit request and its intent to seek your approval is in good faith. We are, as homeowners in the Watershed, simply trying to place stuff that is failing on our property. And in the vast majority of the case, it's in keeping with what our neighbors are doing. And we are ourselves trying to be in compliance. And through the interactions with John, who I have to acknowledge his teaching to me has been very helpful. We've learned what the Valley Branch is trying to do, I think, from a conservation standpoint. We've also been reviewed by the DNR and have changed our plans to be in compliance with a for the most part. So the punchline, I think, is that we're trying to maintain our property by replacing things that are failing for the most part with a little bit of addition. And that addition includes the sand blanket, which is I'm sure detailed in the packets. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Before we move on with this, Counselor, is there any commentary or concerns that you may be interested in?
Only that if the managers choose to approve the variance, that reasons need to be given. So in your packets is that variance worksheet. I
Right,
think it would be prudent to review and provide answers that can then be noted in the minutes as to rationale for or against the variance decision that you make.
So it would be a good idea to essentially go over the 6 questions right here with Jim, even though he has provided us with information. But I wholly agree with everything you're saying. So at this point, he answered some questions here. So if the managers are okay with this, we can go over this right now.
I'd like to get John's input a little bit.
Yeah,
I think
I'd just like some more reiteration. I mean, I read the packet, but just what's happening that is not meeting our rules. As I understand it,
Thank you.
our rules would allow like 43 feet of non-vegetated. And, how's that fit with your plan and why we can't fit it within the 43 feet? I'd just like to hear a little more detail on that.
Can maybe get some background.
Yes, go ahead.
So, landowner submitted this photo that really shows, I believe, what existing conditions are, close to existing conditions are. So you can see the lake shore here, his shoreline actually continues off the page, probably another almost half of what you see here. So they have this wood decking close to the water's edge. And then there's another retaining wall above that, and another retaining wall above that, and it looks like more retaining walls above that, and then also this outbuilding. So the landowner worked hard with the DNR, because the DNR has some tricky rules that need to comply, and I guess this wood deck is maybe a non-conforming situation right now. DNR would not permit something like that. Originally, the landowner was proposing to do some excavation to put in the sand blanket, and the DNR said the excavation is not. I think I'm saying it right, the excavation would not be allowed, but you could fill over what's right there with sand, and that would be allowed as long as it met certain rules. So I did distribute an updated plan to the managers. And that updated plan apparently does conform to the DNR's rules. But there's a figure that looks like this in the document, and that's really what the variance is for the request. So the project is approximately 72 feet long. And the Valley Branch rules allow or require 70% or allow 30% of the shoreline to be in a non-unmowed situation. So the improvements that are basically, it seems like the improvements that are there right now are within that length of shoreline that the managers would allow. But there is some proposed work over in this area, and by doing that, it's disturbing more of the shoreline and putting it in less vegetation than the rules would allow. So the variance is really for this area, because the rules say that you can only have 70% of your shoreline needs to be unmowed vegetation. Less than that would be in this proposal. And then the measuring point is measuring from the DNR's or near high water level, 35 feet upland. So that's what this figure is trying to show, that the hatching is basically the area that is non-compliant with the guidelines. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Did I accurately say things?
Yes, thank you very much, Sean. A little more color is that behind that shed and actually underneath it are additional existing retaining wall features that we are intending to replace as they fail.
How close are we to 70%?
Well, Manager Armstrong, the total project length looks like about 72 feet. And to be in compliance, only 43 feet of that would be able to be mowed or 37 feet. So there's.
So, question for Patrick. So the area on John's sketch here in the packet to the left of the blue line, going up. What is that vegetation that's proposed in there?
So in the non-conforming hatched area, right now, there is, you can see that in the proposed, there are these terraced retaining walls. Two of those are already there.
Yep.
And then this third one that we're proposing to add, there's just dirt. And we use it as a storage area. There's really not much that grows right there. And then this area closer to the outbuilding, you can kind of see in the picture, it's, don't know the type of vegetation, but it's short. The other thing of note, vegetation wise, on the lake shore is that we do have a lot of buckthorn that we are working on removing and have removed the majority of the support of this project. And thanks again to John, understanding this body's goals of planting natives. We've been looking at ferns, and that was detailed to John. I don't know if we made it in here, but the plan is, vegetation standpoint, excluding what is shown in the variance, to add ferns to the roughly 70 feet of lakeshore that are now not developable, able to be developed on at all because of all of our water accessory facing structures and this shading barrier that we're consuming here. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, yes.
So,
Do I understand that correctly? Is that there's an additional portion off to the left? Is that comparable to the area that we're looking at for the project? You know, how much additional, I thought I saw.
So there's a survey
Yeah.
towards the end. It's the fourth one from the end, backside. This is a survey conducted in 2009 for impervious populations. And you can see the red box shows the area where this project is. We have 144 feet of lakeshore
Okay, so there's another 72 feet.
approximately.
And that's the area that has the buckthorn that you're doing?
Undeveloped buckthorn
Uh-huh.
oak trees.
so what keeps popping into my mind is, this is a prevention program for, the erosion factor. Seems worthwhile to me. So is that a reasonable argument we might have to justify this particular variance as part of whatever else we might have on this issue?
Recommend you go through the worksheet. I don't think it's as simple as a yes or no.
Yes, ma'am.
Before we go there, just
Yeah.
just a thought. One thing that kind of struck me is there is a lot of unvegetated area, you know, and that's the concern that we have. Is it necessary that all of it has to be in one area? You know, I mean, does it have to be basically, you know, the left half is supposed to be unvegetated and the right half is vegetated? If there's a mix, it seems like there's some design options that might be there that do allow for native plants in the entire, you know, the 72 feet that you're talking about modifying, that would create unmowed areas in that part of it. It seems like that might mitigate some of the concerns.
If I may, it sounds like you're getting at what defines a vegetative buffer.
What defines it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can you achieve such within this plan? Is that
Right, yeah, yeah.
To have.
Because I wouldn't imagine, well, I don't know, how you intend to use it. And are you going to use that entire area where it needs to be paved over or mowed or whatever? Or are there areas where you'd want to, where it would be nice to have or acceptable to have native plant? And have some of that area also be, then performing the functions that we're looking for in terms of reducing erosion and absorbing, runoff and so on.
That's a good question. For the use cases that we're intending for the space, the deck is existing, and we frequently have dock near the edge of the deck, and we use it, for swimming and other lake recreation. The first layer of terrace is we're intending for sand. There's sand there currently. Intending to keep that
The lowest.
the lowest tier. Yes. But then the tiers above that are, we have attempted non-native plants there and they failed. So, admitting to being a new homeowner, we're looking for better vegetation in it. I've seen in our region the deep shaded oak. We live in a very oaky neighborhood. We've seen ferns do well. So we personally like that from an aesthetic standpoint, and have seen them survive. So I think the plants here I put for design intent, but it's not like I'm not married to that. And if this body suggests that this variance would be more tolerable if there were native vegetation there, then I think that's more than fair.
I'd like to hear from our engineer to hear if that's something that helps the situation or is a way to kind of mitigate some of the.
Pretty much on the Manager Gunland, the rule is intended to be contiguous and not to be disjointed. But I think the managers could consider having the landowner have native plants in areas where plantings could be done as a mitigating factor.
So I want to add something, this thing with the fern, I've seen some of the properties there. And you essentially don't touch the ferns. And they can grow, and as long as they have that shade, they provide quite a bit of habitat and also tend to hold water, as far as I know. So to me, that seems like a beneficial addition, and you're not going to touch it.
They take off.
Yeah.
I've seen.
I think they're beautiful. It's part of them, maybe get lady slippers in there, whatever. Okay. Well, this is another consideration. So even though it's tiered, not making an argument for this gentleman, but even though he has this particular setup, benefit may outweigh our rule here because they are essentially complying with it for the most part and bringing in something better. And also there's this removal of the buckthorn, which is,
In the other 72 feet.
and we could always inspect it, right, Jeff?
I know what I'm excited.
What you got there? So. Sorry.
Just looking at our form to go
Yeah.
through our variance.
Yep.
I was just looking at number one, struggling with that a little bit, but I mean, the obvious answer is, click no. Is there a unique physical condition of the land or water involved that may result in extraordinary or unnecessary hardship from strict compliance? And I don't know that there's anything unique condition, but also I don't want to lose sight of the 70 feet off to the side that is in buckthorn right now that looks like it will be, which provides terrible cover, and So, and I'm envisioning that in Burns versus Buckthorn. And I'm just wondering in the comments section here, make some comment to that effect to record what Patrick is proposing on that side.
And to me, that's a mitigating factor. That's very appealing. You're removing buckthorn. And what I've seen, I'm not an expert, but buckthorn canopy underneath buckthorn. I've got that on my property. It's not good. And
So,
yeah,
yeah, so anyway, like I said, it appears to me this way I'm looking at it, I would probably mark the box no, but in the comments, I would also try to explain that away with talking about that area to the side.
okay, that's your thinking.
That's just I'm looking for discussion for others.
Yeah, again, as I pointed out earlier, my argument is for the change in vegetation. And this is a big plus.
Mhm.
If he doesn't touch it, that remains buckthorn, and again, this is something positive. And yes. it
And
would
that's
be,
maybe under number 4.
Yeah, we'll get there,
So,
but yeah,
but I mean, what you're talking about
right.
in terms of, in the broader picture, that's having a positive impact.
Now, Counselor, you're done. So, I mean, how close do we have to be on this? I mean, do they have to all be particular, or can we have variations? In other words,
Granting or approving a variance is ultimately the decision of the managers.
right,
What you need to have is rationale that indicates whether your approval or, well, let me say it this way, that the
Yeah.
approval is in conformance with the district's rules and overall plan, right? And that's part of what these questions ask, right?
Okay.
Is what effect would granting the variance have on the Valley Branch watershed plan, right? So you need to always have in your brain, your role is as the managers, it's to enforce the Valley Branch rules. This is a request not to enforce the Valley Branch rule. And if you are going to say, yes, we would agree to not enforce it, you need to have a reason why and to explain that it's not going to be harmful to the overall Valley Branch purpose and rules.
yes, ma'am.
And then if, on the flip side, if you choose to deny it, you also should have reasons as to why you're denying it. So that's what this worksheet is supposed
You
to
bet, yeah,
do. So actually what I'm doing is I'm just kind of filling it out as you're talking. So right now I have on item number 1, I have no checked. And then I have there's 70 feet of buckthorn that is proposed to be removed as part of the project in the comments.
right. That's very appealing.
That would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
So as you continue to talk, I'll kind of play with it,
Oh,
but
thank
then at
you.
the end of
Yeah.
the day, so does that help answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, you bet. Okay. So, let's move on to number 2. The landowner's problem due to circumstances unique to the property not caused by the landowner. Well,
Can you give us a little history on how this is failing and?
Absolutely. We bought the property in 2018 and it's largely untouched. What you saw in the picture. Like I said, we tried to put in some native plants along this terracing and they didn't do well in the shade. So we've learned in that time. Also in the course of that time, if you go back to the picture, the top 2 terraces are made out of landscape timber. And they have been failing,
yeah, crumbling.
crumbling. So it's harder to see in this because it's a little bit zoomed out, but the top 2, especially on the south side of the property, the right side of the picture, are really starting to fail. It's also, there's a Versalock on the bottom tier, right above that deck
Right.
structure, also failing.
The Versalock is failing too. Is that what I see in the middle there?
You can see the big crack.
Yeah. So that's erosive or erosion there. And that's introducing earth and or sand directly into the lake.
Reverse lots. You know, and
And when you guys bought it, it was already like this.
we were impressed by this as, you know, purchasing homeowners,
Mhm.
but it has degraded. It is in need of repair in our opinion.
Do you know when they put it in, how long ago that was?
I don't,
How old's the house?
1972.
Okay.
So I'll
Yes.
just make an attempt at if filling in this and see
Yes.
what for discussion.
Yep.
In my mind, we would check yes.
Me too.
And then in comments, say the timber wall and Versalock, walls are failing.
Without a doubt.
Timber walls and
And say treated timber walls.
Yeah.
And the Versalock walls are failing.
Lock.
They're just locked walls, yeah. Versalocks and brand.
And you might want to mention that this is something that they inherited when they purchased the property.
Yep, exactly. That's why they get the yes for me. Okay. Very good, Mr. Brock. Okay, 3. What effect would granting the requested variance have on the entire Valley Branch Watershed District? This one's real easy, right, Counselor?
you tell me.
And so I'm thinking, is this gonna set us back? Is, you know, how is this gonna affect? One concern that we have is what's good for the goose is good for the gander, so we, comply with what you request. What's gonna happen along the rest of the, that area? Now, one thing that I've noticed, and the reason that I'm leaning towards this is because you're on what is essentially a peninsula.
Yes, sir.
And I think that there's great potential for erosion there. And so almost anything we can do to prevent that and to shore up that area is going to be beneficial to the Watershed District, to the Tri-Lakes area, to our, to everything.
Yes.
That is my opinion. Gentlemen,
I would say the negative impact is de minimis, so it's in the grand scheme of things, other than, like you mentioned, maybe we're setting a precedent where other people are gonna want a variance for the same thing. That's why I think maybe you mentioned the buckthorn removal and other things that it's doing that would further the of the watershed district.
I believe, in my mind, that effect would be less potential sediment discharges to Lake
For
Olson.
starters.
And also the potential less leaching of chemicals from the treated timber walls.
It's disgusting.
Because that is an issue with some of these treated timber walls. At the water line.
okay. Okay. Counselor, you have this?
I have less potential sediment into the lake and less leaching into the lake from the treated timber walls.
Okay.
Did I miss something?
Potential for the leaching of toxic substances. And you want
Less
us to
leaching
be,
of toxics, okay.
want us to be good on this, right?
So, yeah, we want it,
Back us up.
I want it accurate to the conversation you're having.
Yeah. Okay. Now, number 4, and I guess I brought this up on it. What effect would granting the requested variance have on the Valley Branch Watershed District Plan? We have it right there. Reduced erosion, reduced leaching of toxic substances, better native plants, the removal of buckthorn, which isn't considered something good, or plant that's not good to prevent erosion. And of course, it's an invasive species. And our homeowner is doing his due diligence to remove that. Sir.
More benefit than loss
Yes, sir.
in terms of our rules. Maybe that's not the way exactly to word it, but
No, but
something
you're,
close to that.
that's correct, yeah. Make sure that Susanna thinks something.
But more benefit than loss to the immediate watershed.
Loss.
Without a doubt. Simple enough?
in terms of the Valley Branch rules.
Yes.
Okay, that one seems simple enough. Everybody agrees with that one, correct? Gentlemen, do you have anything otherwise? No? Okay. Number 5. Will the landowner's proposed property use alter the essential character of the locality?
No,
No, it won't. Well, it will in that it'll make it better, as far as I know, right?
and I think it's similar to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For comments, say improved.
An improvement.
Mhm.
Susanna,
Mhm.
that's good.
Mhm.
Right, fast.
I think
Number 6. Has the application submitted provided sufficient documentation regarding the exceptional conditions or peculiar difficulties claimed and the resulting impacts from approval of the variance?
Say yes.
Yes, on both, right? That seems simple enough.
May be useful to have more clarification on, you know, the native vegetation that is, you know, not the specifics necessarily, but just the notion of you're going to, you know, be planting native plants to reduce erosion, eliminating buckthorn.
Mr. Brower will be lurking. Excuse me. Yes, indeed. Okay, with that said, me, it seems sufficient that this variance can be granted.
Move approval of the variance.
Would you like to make a motion, sir?
I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a variance number on this? Permit number
024.
024.
Dash 39.
Especially in that red.
Dash 39, oh yeah.
That's okay.
Motion to approve the variance request for that.
Okay, do we have any stipulations on that? No, just straight up. Like that.
motion, Bill.
I will second that motion. It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 Your variance is granted. Thank you, sir, for your diligence. We appreciate you coming in and coming to us. Oh, did I miss something?
Mr.
Are we in
President,
trouble?
you've approved the variance, but you haven't approved the permit.
Oh, okay.
With the permit, I do have a question from the board, because.
Yeah.
As the board has talked about, the rules do specifically say that if somebody's putting in a beach stand blanket, that the managers may waive the requirement for a drainage easement up to the 100-foot elevation. The landowner here is proposing a beach stand blanket, and so I think that fits specifically in the rules. But if the managers, whether the managers want to waive that or require the drainage easement, I'd like that to be stated so that if the managers approve the permit, we can process it.
Sir.
I'll make a motion that we waive the requirement for the floodplain easement on this project
And approve the permit.
and approve the permit.
I will second that motion. Aye.
Aye.
You're good to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
President Marchand, if
Uh-oh.
I could ask a question.
What now?
What's your target start date? Is that the spring?
It's looking like the spring.
Okay,
Yeah,
very good.
the buckthorn is almost all gone, so for your inspection purposes, it'll be done this spring.
Okay,
What's in place, because I know that the growing season is essentially over. What's gonna be in place for now? Just the soil?
Soil,
Okay,
yeah, there's various states of riprap.
Okay.
Shore, and then whatever was surviving under the buckthorn is there right now, so it's. not
Okay, so
completely
hopefully-
bare, but close.
hopefully that'll provide something to reduce potential for trouble. And then I would request our our inspector to, pay a visit, here sometime.
Right, I'll visit
Yes,
it,
sir.
you know, when he gets close to starting. You know, typically on the permit, it'll say a 3-day notice. I need a heads up so I can get you my schedule to get out and check it out. I'm looking for erosion control that your contractor would provide.
Right.
And then at the end, before closeout, that, you know, you're doing everything that it says in the permit. So, perfect. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
this.
working with us.
Yeah. That's really important. Have a, safe drive. It's not too far.
Nice to meet all of you.
All right. Good night. Thank you. Watch your step on the, yeah, there you go. Thank you, everybody on that. And thank you, Susanna. We need to keep our feet to the fire because we don't want no trouble.
No, we don't.
I like that checklist, that variance
Heck, yeah.
checklist. I like that.
I'm glad. I think this is the first kind of real walkthrough that at least I've done at the meeting. So if you see anything that needs tweaking, let me know. It can be tweaked, but if you like it,
Yeah.
keep
Yeah, I
using
mean,
it.
so far, so good. I mean, you've kind of covered everything as far as I know. That was a beautiful thing. Okay. Wait a minute, do we have another one? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I need to wear some glasses here. Permit 2024 Hazelton Residence Septic Upgrade. This is the, mound that they want built. Okay, John, explain.
President, Rashawn and managers, the reason this was not put on the consent calendar is because we hadn't had time to calculate what impact the fill might have. See if I can pull up sketch here.
And the, oh, okay, right. That has been completed, so are we looking at,
So no, we have completed the calculation now.
Oh, you have?
It's a little bit difficult to tell with the submitted figure, but there's a stormwater pond in the backyard of this parcel. And 100-year flood elevation of that pond comes up onto the property where they're proposing to put in this mound septic system. And so they're filling a little bit below the 100-year flood elevation of the pond, and we wanted to know what impact that would have on the flood level of the pond and downstream ponds. This is adjacent to the Royal Golf Club at Lake Elmo. It's 3rd edition, and so we have had time to look at that since the packet went out, and the impact on this pond that's partially on this property, it would raise the 100-year flood elevation by less than 1/10 of a foot, and it would also raise the 100-year flood elevation of downstream water bodies by less than 500ths of a foot. So we'd recommend that the managers approve the permit with the conditions listed.
sir,
Just a quick question. I mean, this is an MPCA thing, but is there any conflict with having a mound system that's like right into the 100-year flood elevation? I'm just asking a question.
That's a great question. I've had a lot of discussions with Washington County Public Works and Washington County Health and Environment, Public Health and Environment, because they're the ones that administer the septic ordinance throughout Bench Watershed District in Washington County. And because it's a mound system, and it's a pond with outlets. So I think the 100-year flood elevation might come up and it'll come down fairly quickly in this situation. And the mound itself, I believe, will be higher than the 100-year flood elevation. The drain tile within the mound might be like right at the 100-year flood elevation. But I have had communication with Washington County about this site, and apparently they're okay.
And I mean, that's a tight site. They don't have a whole lot of options here. I mean, so
would somebody like to make a motion?
make a motion to approve permit 2024-40 with the conditions listed.
Second?
So moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 It is approved. You gentlemen. All right. On to 2021-22. But okay, this one. brings up Willowbrook, Oakdale. This is, follow up on our discussion from our last meeting when the gentlemen were here, correct?
Yes.
So to get into this one very quickly, they are essentially non-compliant at this point, correct?
Mr. President, managers, so it's the same developer owner for both of these sites. One is in Lake Elmo and one is in Oakdale. Both of them have outstanding issues. With Lake Elmo, managers talked at length at the last meeting about whether they're in compliance with their stormwater bond control rule because they're using stormwater harvesting and reuse, and they've only operated that for about a month, so it's hard to know if that will satisfy the watershed district's rules. But there's also outstanding issue with emergency overflow within the site that they need to address. And probably maybe most significantly is dealing with a source of water from their site that is causing erosion on the adjacent Tesla site. With the Springs of Willowbrook site in Oakdale, outstanding issues there are, again, whether they're complying with the district's bond control rule because they've only operated their stormwater reuse system for a short period of time. And then there's drainage easements that Attorney Torseth has said what they've recorded is not adequate in meeting the permit condition. So those are kind of the outstanding issues. I did talk with Assistant City Engineer for Lake Elmo. I think it was this week, it might have been late last, I think it was this week. And I got the impression that they, even though they're holding over $3 million as a surety right now, I got the impression that they would be willing to reduce it significantly, something like 80%. And then items we put in warranty. So there's a year-long warranty period that then still need to be satisfied or functional, and they'd be able to draw on that remaining surety if there's a problem. So that I don't know if they were going to reach out to the permit applicant or the permit holder, or if they would be waiting for the permit holder to reach out for them to make that formal request. But it's something like they would be reducing the surety on that site. And that seemed like that was a significant issue for the permit holders because they claim that the city was unwilling to reduce their surety until Branch Watershed District would sign off on the project. So there are a couple of recommendations for the managers to consider with the Springs of Lake Elmo site. I guess I'm suggesting that maybe the manager does not reduce the surety. The surety is currently at $789,000. Representative from Sambatech for the Springs of Lake Elmo is requesting that it be reduced to $105,000. I guess my justification for keeping it at the current level is somewhat based on looking at what Range of Washington Metro Watershed District does. Branch doesn't have a pay cash in lieu of BMP system like Branch of Washington does. They have something called the Stormwater Impact Fund, where they need to, if a permit applicant cannot meet their bond control rule or their rules, they would pay $125,000 per acre of impervious surface. So if you were to apply that amount, they would need to pay just under $1.6 million. So that's double what Valley Branch's surety is. I also think that while it could be only $25,000 as the agent for the project said to correct the source of the water issue, I think it could be quite a bit more than that, especially if they were to walk away from the project and Valley Branch Watershed District had to address it by legal fees and engineering fees to prepare documents and go out for bid for a contractor to fix it and so forth. I think that would be well over $25,000. With the Springs of Willowbrook project, I think that they're close to meeting the Valley Branch Watershed District rules. Applying the same Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District's stormwater impact fund amount, surety would come down to $127,500. The difference with this site is that in this site, there's downstream infiltration basins and stormwater ponds. And so the only reason they're doing reuse on this site is because they developed just like an acre and a half or 2 acres more impervious surface than what had been assumed with those downstream EMPs. So on this site, the watershed district is currently holding a lot of money. And I think it's
It's like about 1.4.
yeah, it's around 1.4 million, and on the first page, it's a 1.5. $1,520,292.
Oh, yeah.
Dollars. And so in this, I guess I'd recommend that that the watershed district retain surety of around $200,000 until they satisfy attorney process easement review of the easements and satisfy Jeff Brower's any issues that he might have, as well as give them more time to determine that they are actually using the amount of water that they can to use for stormwater reuse. Well, I guess those are just some suggestions for
Right.
starting out discussion. Just to give the managers maybe a little bit of training.
Just one point of clarification then. So in the memorandum, you say that you talked to the city about its punch list items and didn't get back to you. Is that still current when you talk to the city engineer? They haven't said what.
So I did talk to the assistant city engineer for Lake Elmo, and I think the punch list items were pretty much the same as Valley Branch Watershed Districts and fixing a EOF and then dealing with they frame it as a retaining wall issue. We're framing it as a source of water and erosion issue.
Well, in regards to the Springs of Lake Elmo, we've talked about this issue with the water to the wall for the entire year. And so I guess I was expecting at some point they would do some type of inspection of the stormwater system to look for any kind of leaks or cracks or something. And including the tanks, the water storage tank that's on the northeast corner. They did some repairs to landscaping in that northeast corner. I think I mentioned that the catch basin in that corner was not the lowest point for the water to exit. So the water could bypass the catch basin and make it, that was one potential source of issues, although I think there's something else going on, and I can't say if it's a leaking stormwater pipe, a leaking tank, some kind of spring activity. We're not aware of any springs on the site, even though they call it the Springs. There's certainly a wetland, there's a wetland pond on Hudson Road. And that has basically not been disturbed as far as the size of it. So nothing has changed as far as that wetland is gone, but of course the rest of the site has changed dramatically with all the excavation work. So I guess I would have expected to see some kind of verification of that they looked at it and they didn't find an issue. We've heard that the retaining wall is fine, but that's not the concern. The concern is the water. So that one, so we haven't heard anything back on that. As far as Willowbrook goes, I don't have any outstanding issues there. I think it's all about conforming to the water reuse formula. And since there wasn't enough time this year and now the season's over, they really can't, meet that. We can't see that till next year. But certainly there's no outstanding issues on the Oakdale site from my perspective. Other than that, we use calculations.
And that's the site that we were gonna, consider reducing to 100,000, just about that. Am I correct?
Because that was their proposal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, hey,
I welcome any input. Susanna, so they're obviously non-compliant with you. Needing to get back to you.
Yeah, so my thoughts are, I mean, as John pointed out, the Valley Ranch does not have a standard procedure to discuss a surety reduction with this type of water system to meet the district's rules,
Right.
right? So, you know, and I understand using Ramsey Washington's, but I think if the district wanted to try and use something like that, it bears more investigation and possibly adopting that as a policy. But, you know, the other, you know, but there's additional rationale that I think John has thought through this quite a lot. And, you know, a lot of thinking into his recommendations, and I think there's sufficient reason and rationale to, I mean, I think you could deny the request outright just because there isn't a process in place, right? I think you would have the right to do that and just say, you know, until we develop a process to discuss reduction at all, we're just not in a position to do that. But if you wanted to do a reduction, again, what you want to do is make sure you have valid rationale for it. So with the one that there's you know, your engineering company is recommending a reduction with a basis of rationale, you know, I think that would be sufficient. You just want to make sure it's in the minutes. But if you don't want to, I think you don't have to.
Yeah. Sir.
I read through this and I just want to say that I concur with John's recommendations on both of these after reading through those.
certainly on the springs of Lake Elmo, there's so many uncertainties and it's gone on for so long that I think we really do need to maintain some, you know, some surety, you know, the full surety to be able to make sure it gets resolved.
Yeah. And the last meeting, I thought, who's running this gig, you know?
Mhm.
What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Forgive me. Yes, sir.
I guess the thing I forgot to say was, I believe both of the recommendations are commensurate with the risks.
Okay. Well, that seems fairly obvious to me. Would any managers like to make a recommendation or a motion?
I'll make a motion that we, on the springs of Lake Elmo, that we maintain the $789,000 surety. And that on springs of Willowbrook, we retain a surety of $212,500 and release $1,180,292.95.
Second.
It's a moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 That is approved. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Susanna. Perfect. Okay.
Is what
Did you second that?
Mhm.
You did, yeah. Rick.
Sorry.
Rick was on it. Okay. Wow. Interesting stuff. Okay, our next item. Well. Dirty Dorsa.
So what you have in your packet is a memo from me. I believe this is not the first time you've heard about this.
No.
So on the Royal Golf Club, the 5th and 6th edition permit, there is a portion of a stream that runs through that property that is contaminated with PFAS. And as part of the mitigation response, the MPCA is requiring an easement to go over the land that basically outlines that it's not gonna be used for recreational purposes. There needs to be a sign up there. There, the easement's gonna be there. But, Valley Branch is a really old, surface water drainage easement. I gave you a copy of it just because it's kind of fun and maybe you wanted to see what it says.
Right.
Um,
It's in hieroglyphics.
something like that. It looks like it was typed with a typewriter.
Maybe many
From
of
nineteen ninety. Anyway, what the MPCA is requiring is that Valley Branch subordinate that 1990 easement to the MPCA. So both John and I did a pretty thorough overview, and John did a really, really great job of looking specifically at the Project 1007 language that they had in there, and really making some corrections as to how they were presenting Project 1007, its relationship to the PFAS.
Yeah.
And so both John and I recommend that it be signed in its current form. So it is before you to sign, but I thought you guys should see it, know what it is you're approving. Any questions for John or myself?
We need to make a motion on this.
Yeah, so I've, in my recommendation, I've actually included a resolution. So, but the recommendation has language if you just want to
Regurgitate.
utilize that as the basis for your motion, you certainly can.
The legal counsel recommends that. Okay, if, any gentlemen would like to take a stab at that, by all means, otherwise I can do it. So I would like to make a motion to follow legal counsel's recommendation that the district approve the resolution subordinating its existing easement with document number 623371 to the environmental covenant and easement and PCA easement between ERP MN 2 LLC Royal Golf Course and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and authorize President Marchand to execute the non-lender subordination agreement of the MPCA. Wow,
Second.
thank you. Gonna need some oxygen on that one. So moved and seconded.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
thank you. That was, I like when the way you teed me up on that one. Excellent. Okay.
Do my best.
Beautiful. Okay, we got that squared away. Mr. Brower.
Yes, President Marchand, managers, give you a update. I did not submit a report for the packet. Inspections were somewhat late prior to the due date for the report. So there's a number of permits that are waiting for confirmation of their infiltration basins performing at this point of the year, unless we get some significant rain. Those may push out till next year, but there's certainly a number of them that have on my list that I need to inspect. There's a Cron residence in Afton. I confirmed that permit could be closed out to Josh Phillips. If you remember on the manager's tour, we went to the Roars apartment building in Oakdale.
Right.
So we had a meeting there last Friday to go over their plans to make that infiltration basin perform. It was full of water. We haven't had rain since the beginning of September, whenever it was. So they came up with a plan to pump it dry, to potentially remove the top sediment layer, and then to scarify or work up the soil to see if it would perform. At last check the other day, the water was gone. And so I think they're waiting to see what happens. They were going to have a geotechnical firm take a look at the soils and maybe do some testing in certain areas just to see if they do have borings that show there's sand. And so they're trying to work around it to see the best way to move forward. So it may very well work once they remove the silt. So that's in the works. That Oakdale Apartments, not ready to close yet. There's still landscaping to be done and irrigation systems not in place yet. That is another site that has an underground reuse system. So we'll be going through the same process of they have it in place. Now they've got to implement it. So there may be, potential reduction of that surety at some point pending, how their system works. So that'll be next year. The Woodbury Car Wash over in Hudson Road with a pre-construction meeting this week. They had erosion control in place yesterday. They need to add some more silt fence, double silt fence along the wetland. And they're aware of that and they're gonna take care of that. There's still a surety submittal pending for that project, so they can't move dirt yet. But they can do other prep work. There's lots of site work to do before they start moving dirt, so they don't even have equipment there yet, so. Anyway, that's pending. The Islamic Center addition, the gym, they're pretty close, I think, to stabilizing all the dirt work and the infiltration basin. They are getting ready to pave the parking lot this week. So I think that should be coming up pretty soon. The Silver Lake outlet is not running. As I think mentioned last time, it was at a trickle and yeah, there's nothing happening there.
Maybe tonight.
Yeah, it had to come up quite a bit, I think, to do that, but Lake Elmo Airport, the evaporators were pulled this week. And they started staging those, so you'll see those sitting out. And then St. Croix Montessori School over in Neal. They're getting close to final stabilization on that project, but they're not quite there yet. And then I did get a request from the Washington County project manager for Oak Green to do an inspection as they're working through their punch list. And I was out there today, but they're not finished yet, so it's hard to put together a final for them. But I mean, from our perspective, what we're looking for, they have a number 10 infiltration or filtration basins on the site, and they've all been stabilized. So the main concerns are, have they stabilized all those areas? Yes, sir.
Are you referring, the
Oak
east side? Yeah, I know. The
Yeah.
east side past 30th northbound.
That's one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are, they
There's,
look kind of deep.
yeah, there's 10 of them. And so those have all been stabilized, but they're still working. They still have to put the shoulders in. They still have to
Yeah.
grade and stabilize the shoulder to the existing vegetation. And then I talked to a project manager out there today. They have 80 driveways that they have to finish. So they have, once they get everything paved and the shoulders in, they have to go pave those and grade the driveway entrances, the slopes,
Right.
the yard part, and stabilize all that. So they've got some work to do for the next few weeks.
So people's trailers don't scrape as they pull out.
Right. I'm
I've
sure
heard
that's
stories.
Yeah, I'm sure that's an issue.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's
Check in it today.
Did you really? Oh my goodness.
it's moving along though. I mean, they're paving and, the big work is almost completed and I would imagine over the next 2 to 3 weeks, they should be ramping up.
Okay.
So, anyway, that's it.
Thank you, sir. Do, any managers have questions for Inspector Brown? Going, gone. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your help. Managers. For the managers that are unaware, we typically cancel our November 28th and December 24th meetings. We all understand that due to the holidays. I assume the managers are okay with that. There's no problem. So we will be holding one meeting in November and one meeting in December. And they will be fairly full meetings.
We need a motion for that, or we just,
We do.
You historically have done that, yeah.
As soon as I was looking around, I'm trained. I look at it automatically. So I would like to make a motion to cancel our November 28th and December 24th meetings.
I would
Second.
clarify,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think it's December 26th.
Oh, good eye. Is she right? Is she right?
Trust her?
You're good. All
She's
right.
right.
December 26th, forgive me. I rescind my motion and resubmit. You're all over it.
No, we second.
council. November 28th and December 26th meeting. Thank you very much, Councilor. Do I have a second? Rick? Sir? Aye.
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 So moved, so done. Thank you very much. So we like, good eyes. Okay. Floodplain easement policy for Valley Branch Watershed District Permit Project. Okay, I would like to, before we get into this one, in the interest of time and the nature of this, and the fact that it requires, in my opinion, quite a bit of conversation, I would like this to go back to our subcommittee with Mr. Brock and John and Counselor. And I would like to be part of that, of course. And while that happens, I don't know if we need to direct both of you gentlemen to draft a floodplain easement policy. Would you like to do that? And of course, that entails, what is it? Our per diem funds for your efforts, you know, whatever. So if that's okay with everybody, I would like to go ahead and ask that. That does not require a motion. That's just directing. You know. So, gentlemen, all right with that? Go ahead and do that. And then we'll pick it apart. Just kidding. We'll deal with that. But to prepare to set up a meeting with Counselor's office and all her wonderful amenities there. And we'll do that as soon as we can. Perhaps you'd like to attend, you're okay, or
On when you're gonna meet.
what's that?
Depends on when the meeting, when the.
What continent will you be in visiting?
I'll be in Asia and
Oh, you guys are unbelievable. I'm going to Colorado and I think that's exotic. That's like insane. Wow. Okay. So anyway, John, set that up as soon as you can, or whenever you gentlemen are comfortable with that. Sometime in November, December, if that's okay, because this is not, so pressing and we're going into the slow season as far as I know. And I know you ladies will be around, so. Thank you.
and if the meeting happens when I'm around.
Oh, heck, yeah, John, heck, Rick, if you want to, I don't know, yeah. Rick,
Well,
you're not too bored? Whatever. Sounds good?
We gotta be cautious about public meetings.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, but right now, give us a counselor. We're good to go. That is all I have. Thank you, gentlemen. You okay with that? Okay. Next. So. Counselor, Ms. Torrey, your last name, just in case I want to be formal.
Kelm,
Ms. Kelm. Counselor Kelm. These dates comply with your knowledge? October 24th and November 14th, December 12th. Today's the 24th. We're okay. Yeah, that's okay, John. So November 14th and December 12th, will the managers be able to attend? Will we have a quorum?
Won't be here on the 14th.
I don't know.
It'll be announced.
Yeah, oh my God. We're gonna do, when we absolutely have nothing else to talk about, these gentlemen are all gonna put together a massive slideshow that's probably gonna beat anything from National Geographic that I've read.
And be much longer than any. of
I
our
think so.
meetings.
Yours were, my God, and you don't have to dress up either, you know. Yeah, if I can, I'm gonna make fun of you in that Moroccan attire. Okay. And then the budget workshop again on the 12th of November. John provides us with a reminder. I intend on attending that. And one more item. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's a moved and seconded.
Aye.
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 We're adjourned. Happy Halloween, everybody. Yeah, hello.